mausoleum of Emperor Qin Shihuang, one of the world's largest imperial tombs, is full of symbolism. It is one of the world's most precious cultural treasures, on par with the Egyptian pyramids and ancient Greek sculptures, and its discovery was China's most spectacular archaeological achievement of the 20th century. The terracotta warriors exemplify the exceptional artistic talent of Chinese people 2,000 years ago. They are a treasure of the Chinese nation. One day in 210 BC, the great Ying, known as Qin Shihuang, the first emperor of Qin, set out on an inspection tour of the territory he had conquered. This was his 5th such tour, but it would be his last. Qin Shihuang fell ill during his inspection tour. The emperor died in July in Shaqiu Prefecture. He will always be remembered as the emperor who unified China. Qin Shihuang often recalled his glory days. He hated the thought of leaving behind his empire and his earthly wealth and status, but no one can escape death. He had deep regrets when he died, but he was also comforted by the fact that he had created an equally glorious empire for himself in the underworld. On January 29, 1974, a few villagers were digging a well at the entrance to Xiyang Village, Lintong County, at the foot of Mount Li in Shanxi Province. Successive years of drought had created a water shortage in the area. Many terracotta heads, legs, and arms were unearthed. The discovery was the talk of the town. Some said they came from the temple of the god of tiles. Lintong County officials restored and reassembled the parts to make 2 basically complete terracotta figures. There were 2 life-size terracotta warriors, the first such large terracotta figures to be discovered in China. The world-famous mausoleum of Emperor Qin Shihuang was discovered near Xiyang Village. Like a towering hill with Mount Li to the north and the Ray River to the south, the mound is still majestic even after 2,000 years. The greatest emperor in Chinese history, Qin Shihuang, was buried in this mound. The uniforms of the terracotta figures found nearby were those of Qing dynasty warriors and were probably related to the mausoleum complex. The State Administration of Cultural Heritage decided to officially excavate the terracotta warriors to determine their true nature. During the excavation, the archaeologists also recovered many bronze weapons. After careful cleaning, inscriptions were revealed on some of them. One weapon was inscribed, made by Prime Minister Yu Bu-wei. Yu Bu-wei, Qin Shihuang's prime minister, was responsible for weapons production for the Qing Empire. There is no doubt these weapons were built during the reign of Qin Shihuang, and the terracotta figures accompanying the weapons were funerary articles for the empire. The discovery of the terracotta army led to a secret world underground, the other glorious empire that Qin Shihuang created for himself. Since 770 AD, China had consisted of a number of independent states. When Yin Zheng was born, there were 7 states: Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Jiao, Wei, and Qin. Yin Zheng, grandson of the king of Qin, was born in the capital of Jiao. When Qin and Jiao made an alliance to fight their common enemies, Yin Zheng's father, the Prince of Qin, was sent to Jiao as a hostage as a show of faith. Yin Zheng did not have a happy childhood. As the son of a hostage, he was always an outcast in Jiao. This experience tempered him and made him stronger and more tenacious. But his lonely life made him more capricious and suspicious. With the help of a rich man in Jiao named Lu Bu-wei, Yin Zheng and his father fled back to Qin. On July 15, 1974, the archaeological team settled in Xiyang village and began their excavation. A year of digging revealed a huge pit containing an entire terracotta army of men, horses, chariots and weapons buried for more than 20 centuries. Though the last 2,000 years have left most of the terracotta army in pieces, the overall formation still looks like a formidable army moving forward with great determination. The 204 ordinary soldiers in the 3 front rows are dressed in armor and carry bows and arrows. Their role was to shoot arrows into the opposing army at the start of a battle to throw the enemy into panic. Armored soldiers in columns with a large group of chariots constitute the main force. Those troops in columns are skilled in hand-to-hand combat and ready to take up the fight at close quarters. The terracotta warriors flanking both sides of the formation, wearing heavy armor and carrying bows and arrows, kept an eye on the situation in all directions. Probes of the unexcavated area indicate that there are 3 rows of warriors with their backs to the army who guarded the army's rear. The role of the 2 flanking columns and rear guard ensured that the army was not outflanked by the enemy. This pit has been named Pit Number 1 and is a typical square pit. The chariots, horses, and warriors faced east, showing that the formation is complete with front attack troops, flanking troops, main troops, and rear guard. The Chinese have an ancient belief in preparing for the afterlife of the dead as if they were still alive. The belief was that the emperor should have everything he needed in the underworld. As the supreme leader, Qin Shihuang knew that an army is important to an empire, both on earth and in the underworld. Therefore, Qin Shihuang created an invincible army to serve him in the afterlife. Each terracotta warrior has a distinct and vivid appearance and facial expression. Their average height is about 1.8 meters. There are both younger and older men, some smiling, some with a sad expression. Some of the warriors come from the Central Plains and others from frontier areas. In other words, each warrior is distinct in appearance, age, and facial expression. You can tell the difference in their ages by their eyes, but you can't see the fear of death in them. As men, they risk their lives to win a brief moment of fame and glory. Close inspection reveals the great detail in the hair and nails of the soldiers. You can even see the stitching on their shoes, the weave of their armor, and the lines on the palm of their hands. In 247 BC, 13-year-old Yin Zhang became emperor. Because of his youth, Liu Bu Wei became the power behind the throne. Because he helped Yin Zhang and his father successfully flee from Zhao, he was appointed Prime Minister of Qin, ruling the country in Yin Zhang's name. Another person of influence was Yin Zhang's mother, Zhao Ji, but she only did what Lao Ai, her male escort, advised. Lao Ai, as Zhao Ji's escort, participated in the struggle for power in Qin. In 238 BC, when Yin Zhang turned 22, custom dictated that he was eligible to be crowned and rule the country. But Lao Ai didn't want to give up power, so he staged a rebellion and planned to assassinate Yin Zhang. But Yin Zhang was prepared and violently put down the rebellion. Yin Zhang hated his mother's lover and ordered Lao Ai to be dismembered. Dismemberment was the cruelest punishment practiced in ancient China. Horses were used to tear off the limbs while the person was still alive. The year after the execution of Lao Ai, Yin Zhang, now known as Qin Shihuang, banished Liu Bu Wei from Xinyang. Soon thereafter, Qin Shihuang sent him a suicide note, and Liu dutifully committed suicide. The state of Qin was now completely controlled by Yin Zhang. On April 17, 1997, archaeologists probing a construction site in Shachen village discovered many pieces of armor. After cleaning the pieces, archaeologists found that there were pieces of bluestone armor held together with copper wire, similar to that worn by the terracotta warriors, first uncovered in 1974. In 2 small trenches, they found more than 70 suits of armor. There were 3 types: scale armor, lamella armor, and super large armor. Scale armor is similar to the armor worn by the generals in Qin Shihuang's terracotta army. About 97% of the find consisted of lamella armor, which is made of rectangular or nearly square pieces and is the most common type among the terracotta army. The find included armor for horses that covered from their neck to their rump. Although the stone armor was well made, it was obviously too heavy and brittle to be practical. It was obviously a burial object for the mausoleum of Qin Shihuang. The terracotta army was the powerful protector of Qin Shihuang's underground empire, and the stone armor pit was its armory. The emperor had an underworld army and a logistical supply system as well. At one site, archaeologists found some unfinished armor pieces. The armor pieces were obviously made by polishing pieces of rough stone. Holes were then drilled in the pieces and threaded with copper wire to form a suit of armor. Archaeologists also found stone tools and grinding stones used to make stone armor pieces. These grinding stones are not large, so artisans probably held them in their hand to use. In other words, each armor piece was probably polished by hand and required many man-hours to finish. Soon after coming to power, Qin Shihuang made Qin the most powerful of the 7 states. He decided to end the 7-state situation by unifying them. In 233 BC, a large Qin army invaded Han, quickly capturing its capital and annexing it to Qin. Qin Shihuang then moved against the other 5 states to the east. In 221 BC, the Qin army conquered and occupied Qi. It took Qin Shihuang a decade to conquer the other 6 states and establish a powerful unified empire. In March 1977, archaeologists began excavating pit number 3. Archaeologists call the large chamber south of pit number 3 the South Wing. The many terracotta figures found there led experts to believe it might be a lounge area. On the north side was a similar wing. The horse and chariot chamber contained a painted wooden chariot with 4 terracotta figures on it. The archaeologist wasn't entirely sure of its purpose. Archaeologists speculate that this was the Army's command center. Commanders drew up military plans in the north and south wings, and perhaps used the chariot to inspect the battlefield. Pit number 3 is northwest of the main part of the Army. The location of the command center made it easy for the generals to make precise battle plans and keep an eye on the enemy. More importantly, this is away from the front of the battle formation, ensuring the safety of the commanding generals in battle. From the unearthed terracotta army, people today can see the kind of army Qin Shihuang used to conquer the other 6 states. People today can also understand the profound military strategy of the Qin army. The army's formation and distribution of different types of soldiers hint that the army could make adjustments in response to various battlefield situations. At the start of the battle, the archers at the front shot arrows to destroy part of the enemy force, after which the main part of the army in pit number 1 would move forward. Then the cavalry and chariots could rapidly attack the enemy's flank, while the main infantry spread out to surround the enemy and help the cavalry and chariots annihilate the enemy. Thanks to an invincible army and epoch-making military strategic and tactics, Qin Shihuang was able to unify China. The terracotta army faces east, the direction of the 6 states conquered by Qin Shihuang. If the monarchs of the 6 states would resist Qin in the underworld, these forces would deal with their armies. The underworld empire of Qin Shihuang is nearly impregnable.